and once again, and this time for the last time, welcome back to the Module 2 videos. On this last video for the Module 2, our assistant professor Annika Wolf will be talking about the proof of concept design. How it could be actually done, how it will affect your idea on what your customer needs or what your customer would probably want. What are the good technical ways of conducting a study on your customers and doing a proof of concept design, and all the other things related to these matters. So with this introduction, let's hear what our assistant professor Annika Wolf has to say.
Hi, so my name is Annika Wolf, and in this video I'm going to be talking about the proof of concept. So you have a really good idea and you think that you can take this idea to market and that you can make money from it. But how do you know if other people are going to like your idea? Well, this is why we have a proof of concept. The proof of concept is one version or manifestation of your design idea that can help you to find out if your idea can be turned into a viable product. So according to one estimation, about 95% of all new products fail. And there can be many reasons why products fail, but the common reasons are that your product, even though you think it's a really good idea, it doesn't solve a problem for other people. They don't see in your product what you see, and they don't really want it, they don't need it, therefore they're not going to buy it. Another common problem is that the product is needed, people see value in it, but the way that you're proposing to approach solving that problem, it won't really solve that problem very well for them. So they will try and choose a different product. So the chances of these failures occurring are increased when the customer needs are not taken into account early in the design process. And this often happens because in a design process, somebody decides they want to do a product, they may talk to the customer, they may try to get some idea of what the customer wants, but they don't really handle this dialogue very well, they don't really get a clear understanding, and then they go ahead, continue to create the product without really finding out if it's what they wanted and if it continues to be what they want. So another reason why failures happen is because the design process is not flexible to new information coming in. So creating a proof of concept means that you're creating something that can be shown to other people that will tell them or convey to them your idea. And there's many different ways in which you can create the proof of concept. So, I mean, it can be a simple document that tells some important details about your proposed product. So it might explain, what are the goals of your product, and what problem will it solve, why people should use it, who should use it, so who could be the users of the product, and also the scope of the product is important. So, you can also say not just what problems it will solve, but also what problems it doesn't solve. And then it's a good idea if your product is a technology-based product to talk about what technologies might be used to implement it, because that's something that people might need to know when they're deciding if it's something that they would use or not. And then, of course, it's important to mention and think about the profitability, because at some point you might be putting your proof of concept in front of potential investors. But it could also be, as well as being a document, it could also be actually some physical but non-functional mock-up. For example, your proof of concept could be a model car that you show to people to find out if they like the look and the idea of the design, more so than the functionality, which is something that you will solve when you start to build the product. So that it's a model car that just gives that kind of look and feel that people can have an instant reaction to and say, yes, this is a car that I would be really inspired and interested to buy, or this is something that doesn't look very nice. I can't imagine myself driving around in something that looks like that. So to do that, you don't put all of the functionality in, you just focus on the look and feel. And you can even make a proof of concept out of, for example, cardboard or wood or 3D printed. So there's many different materials you can use for creating a physical prototype or proof of concept. Or it can be a simple sketch. So whereas before the document I was discussing would be listing different features and ideas behind the product, you can also just sketch the product onto a piece of paper. For example, with the car, you can sketch initially your car design, and then maybe your next step would be to create the model. So there are several reasons that you would develop a proof of concept. Well, one thing is that it can be really difficult to communicate ideas using speech, because you can say something and then you don't really know if other people that you're talking to are picturing the same thing in their minds that you are, or even the same thing as each other. Where if you have it on paper, then everybody's looking at the same thing. So as well as testing ideas to see if they're viable before investing in costly product development, then the proof of concept is also something very concrete that designers, technologists, customers, whoever else is important in this design process can all discuss, and you can all be certain that you're looking at and discussing the same idea. And then through this process, you can find out what are the expectations that your customers have, what are their ideas about the product, what problems might a technologist see, will an investor invest? This is where the testing of the proof of concept comes in. So you need to test your idea with people and put it in front of them and see how they react. So first of all, you have to engage as many different people as possible, so you get all different types of input. And you need to think about how you're going to capture those reactions. So it could be a focus group where you have people discussing and then you listen to their conversations, or it could be more structured, so you could use questionnaires to find out what they thought about different aspects of it. But the idea is that you ask as many different types of people. So you would also, as well as asking people who know about design, you might also ask technologists, but then importantly, you put it in front of potential customers, and then because you want to get somebody probably to invest and find out if it's going to be marketable, then you would speak to potential investors. So through this testing process, you should understand better the viability of your proposed product. And then ideally, you should also get some ideas on how to improve it. And then it's not always a good idea just to assume that your one idea is the best. So you may put forward multiple ideas and see which one people like the most, which you can grow further. Or you might even use a competitor's product as part of your testing so that people can contrast with what is already out there. So when is a good time to make your proof of concept? Well, obviously, if you want to have it as something which tells you should you develop your product further, and if you want to be able to adapt and make changes based on the input, then you need to do this early in your design process, so that if your assumptions about your product turn out to be the wrong ones, then it doesn't cost too much to go back and start again. So to summarize, a proof of concept, it should be fairly low cost and low effort. You should create it early and get as much feedback as possible. And your proof of concept, if done properly, it will improve your chance of creating a successful product.
So thank you, Annika Wolf. I would also like to thank you, our viewer, for interest towards our teaching module.